County Deputy Public Defender Philip Dube. And Philip, that was dealing specifically with this stand your ground, not the duty not to retreat. But I want to talk about the provocation issue because you mentioned it earlier. The judge decided he is going to give that instruction to this jury. I want to know if you think that that is as big a win for the state as I think it is.
Oh, yeah, it's tremendous because if the jury believes that Kyle provoked that shooting, then he can be convicted of the underlying homicide. Now, on the other hand, I got to tell you, normally when a judge gives a jury instruction, it's based on substantial evidence, and this was pretty flimsy what they had. I think when the jury looks at all the evidence at that particular moment, at that scene, in its totality, and that Kyle had a split second to react, and there's a gun present, they can still find that it was reasonable under the circumstances. Alternatively, I believe they can find that he had an honest but unreasonable belief in the need for self-defense, which should get him a manslaughter under Wisconsin law. I don't know if they've entertained an instruction for that lesser included offense, but as long as Kyle's consenting to all these lessers, they might as well, throw that one into the mix too, because that one does not have a life top to it.
Yeah, they're not considering manslaughter, but you make a great point. Maybe that's something they should have considered. Maybe that can fall under the guise of reckless. They have a couple of reckless lesser includeds that they can consider. I want to call up quickly what that definition is of provocation, that under the statute. It says, this jury, you should also consider whether the defendant provoked the attack. A person who engages in unlawful conduct of a type likely to provoke others to attack and who does provoke an attack is not allowed to use or threaten force in self-defense against that attack. So the idea here that they're going to tell this jury that on that video, and again, it is not clear on that video. From where I sit, it's not clear. Chanley Painter was in the courtroom. She said it wasn't clear. So we don't know exactly how this jury is going to interpret that video. But let's just say, at some point when he's in front of Joshua Ziminski, the claim is he raises his AR-15 at Ziminski. That causes Ziminski then to pull out his gun, shoot it in the air, and I guess for whatever reason he decides to do that. That's what gets Joseph Rosenbaum to begin chasing Kyle Rittenhouse. I always wondered why he started chasing him in the first place. What precipitated that event? I thought it was just he was the youngest looking because he had been threatening a whole lot of other guys and they looked like tougher guys than him. So he chose the weakest of the pack. That's what I always thought. But they're claiming it was this. Now, if that is the case, that creates real problems for the defense, no?
Oh, yeah. But on the other hand, when Joseph is chasing him, I think the concern is he's going to try to get the gun away and then turn it against or turn it on to Kyle. So, I mean, what is he supposed to do? It's tremendous firepower, and I could understand why he would want to fire back. Now, I think the real question for the jury is going to be, just because Kyle raised the gun when he's protecting property, without more, does that mean he's going to shoot? Does that mean he's going to kill? I mean, cops pull guns out of their holsters all the time. They tell people to freeze. They still don't fire. Does that mean you get to shoot the cop? I don't know that it rises to that level of legal provocation. And I think the jury is going to have to frame by frame, pixel by pixel, look at Kyle's conduct in that split second to see if what he did amounted to provocation. And I'm not sure that it's substantial enough for the jury to find that he actively provoked that lethal response.
Yeah, fair enough. And when I say this is a big win for the state, I think it just kind of puts them in the game. I think without it, they have not a lot at all. I'm not saying this guarantees a conviction in any way. I'm saying this puts them in the game because I agree with you. I think when this jury considers that instruction by the judge, looks at the video, understands all of that they know about Joseph Rosenbaum and what was going on, the totality of the circumstances, they just might think that the decisions made by Kyle under split-second circumstances was in fact reasonable.
Yeah, and I think ultimately when the jury goes back into the deliberation room and they start making heads or tails out of the language in some of these pattern jury instructions, they're so complicated and Byzantine, they might just disregard it anyway and try to look at it in layman's terms. Well, did Kyle provoke this? They're not going to look at language like reasonable, utter disregard. They're just going to look at whether or not he in fact provoked it. And once they hear that this other kid had a gun, they're probably going to find in favor of Kyle. Now, it's one thing if the kid was throwing a dirt clod, or he gave him the finger, or was yelling expletives at Kyle, then you don't get to take a gun to the scene. But the fact that this kid had a gun and he raised it in the air, I think a jury might find that Kyle acted appropriately on this set of facts anyway.
Yeah,
now, on the other hand,
go ahead, man. Go ahead.
He could also crash and burn. He could also burn and crash like the Hindenburg.
Yeah, he could. I don't want to comment one way or the other, but
Sure.
I think the circumstances as they existed, it's going to be tough to find any other way here. I'm not sure about that.